Mammoliti! That's probably the most hype introduction I've ever had, so thank you. All right, guys, thank you for coming. My name is Jacob. I'm one of the consultants here at Arctiq. So first talk that we wanted to talk about was provisioning in Google Cloud with Terraform Enterprise, Vault, and Sentinel. So 3 HashiCorp products. Terraform Enterprise is a paid solution. It's either it's based either SaaS or you can install it on-prem now as well. I'm sure most people here have probably used Terraform open source version. Does anyone use Terraform Enterprise now? Has anyone seen Terraform Enterprise? Probably, yeah. I feel like that's most of the reaction we get. The big difference with Terraform Enterprise with Terraform is that it provides you a UI. It allows you to do RBAC. Basically just gives you a bit more community features that you can use. So the agenda that we're going to talk about is basically generating dynamic secrets with Vault. So Vault is a key management store from HashiCorp, but one of the big things that it can also do is generate dynamic secrets for cloud, so for GCP, Azure, AWS, and it can also generate dynamic secrets for databases as well. So if your application needs to connect like a Postgres DB or something, you don't need to have a static password in like the environment vars or sometimes hard-coded directly in the code, which I've seen before. So one thing that Vault can do is your app would authenticate against Vault and retrieve that dynamic password that's only valid for a set time. And then I'll walk through a bit more of what Terraform Enterprise can actually do, and then talk about Sentinel. So Sentinel is policy as code from HashiCorp. And then the final thing is I'll walk through putting it all together, and then I'll actually do a demo for you guys of how this workflow would kind of look. So as I mentioned, Vault is a secret management store. Can store credentials, certificates, and tokens as well. I mentioned, and what we're going to show today, can generate dynamic secrets on the fly. Like I said, I've seen countless amount of times where customers actually store passwords for, like database is probably the biggest one in their actual code. And the problem is that if you tail your logs of your applications, a lot of times those secrets get exposed and they're not really secret anymore. So with dynamic credentials, that password is only valid for a certain amount of time, say 10, 20 minutes, however long you want. And then if that password gets spits out in the log, it's not really that big of a deal because it's pretty much useless after that time to live. The other thing with dynamic credentials is it eliminates the need to hand out static service account credentials. So for a good example is for GCP, I don't have to now send out a static JSON file to go provision in my cloud. My users can now authenticate against Vault. They're going to get a temporary JSON from a service account that's only valid for a time that I set. They can go provision whatever they need to, and then after that JSON becomes invalid, so it can't be used again. And then the other final thing is now we have an audit trail. So now I can see which users authenticated against Vault and what path did they query. So it's kind of all audited that way. And then I kind of drew a little diagram too to kind of show how this workflow works. Basically, an admin would go enable a secret engine on Vault. Then you would configure the secrets engine, create a role set, and what the role set does is it just creates a basically like an entity in Vault of saying any JSON that I generate, they can do this in GCP. Once the admin creates that role set, users can now go authenticate against Vault, request a set of credentials, Vault returns that set of credentials, and now I can use those creds to go provision my infrastructure in GCP. Has anyone here used Vault or they have Vault in their environment now? Yeah, so most people are kind of familiar with it. Vault Enterprise or just open source version? Open source. So the next piece of the demo that I'm going to show is Terraform Enterprise. So it looked like most people here just use like the open source version. So what Terraform Enterprise provides is a central location to run your Terraform code. No longer are you running Terraform applies on your local machine. You're now running it on either on the SaaS-based solution, or you can run it on-prem on some other like remote server. A big benefit with Terraform Enterprise is that it supports SCM integration, so you can tie it to your GitHub or GitHub Enterprise, supports GitLab and Bitbucket as well. I think those are probably I've seen GitHub and Bitbucket being the two biggest ones that people are looking to tie into it. And what I'll do is I'll show when I do like a git commit in my code, it automatically triggers a build in Terraform Enterprise, and then I can go review those changes and then make that apply to go build the infrastructure in GCP. The other big thing with Terraform Enterprise, and you can do it with Terraform too, is remote state. So for example, if you and I are collaborating on a project, if we both have our local state files, we kind of have no idea where we are. Like I may have committed a bunch of code that provisioned 2 compute instances while you're still behind and you only have 1. You can do something like remote state where you would use like a Google bucket if we're using GCP. What would happen is our local machines would go connect to that state file. That way we're kind of in lockstep. But Terraform Enterprise kind of provides this out of the box. The other thing I'm going to mention too is Sentinel support. So Sentinel, like I said, is policy as code. I'll talk about it more in the next slide, but high level, what Sentinel pretty much does is it provides some sort of restrictions on what you can provision with Terraform. So for GCP, for example, we can limit that users can only provision an N1 standard 1 or an N1 standard 2, and they can't provision anything above like a 32 gig RAM server. So it's just a way to provide some sort of a limit of what users can provision. The other big piece is that Terraform Enterprise also supports a module registry. So is anyone who's using Terraform, are they used to using the Terraform modules as well? A little bit, yeah, yes. Custom modules. So like if you wrote like into...
Write our models basically all the HashiCorp.
Right, and where do you guys store them? Like some sort of like Git or something? Do you guys store them in like some sort of Git? Like local, yeah, okay. I mean, and we do that too internally. But with Terraform Enterprise, it actually has its own private registry as well. So you can upload them there, and now anyone who has access to Terraform Enterprise can then build their Terraform plans and then access those modules as well. And I think I mentioned before, and it's like in the last point, it has full RBAC and SAML support for single sign-on, so you can tie it into a current single sign-on that you have already in your environment. You don't need users to create a brand new account. And the final piece is Sentinel. So like I mentioned, Sentinel is policy as code. So it's a way to restrict users of what they can and can't provision in the clouds. What I'll show you as an example here today is that I'm creating a policy that allows users to only provision machines that are N1 standard 16 or smaller. The other policy that I added is that the initial OS disk size has to be less than 100 gig. It's not really a practical solution, but it was more just to show you the different type of things you can kind of restrict. Another good example I think would be you can restrict what regions users could provision in. So if you're all in like US West or US East or whatever, you can limit that as well. Any questions around any of these pieces I've talked about so far? Nope. Cool. So the actual demo itself that I'm going to show today. So the first piece is we write Terraform code that will reach out to Vault via the Vault provider, and then that will read in the Google path to generate our dynamic credentials. Once we have that, we write a Sentinel policy that restricts users to only be able to provision compute instances of N1 standard 16s or smaller, and then I added that initial disk size is less than 100 gig. Once my code is all good, I can push it to Git, and then that automatically triggers a Terraform Enterprise run via a webhook. And then I can go see that build happen in Terraform Enterprise, and then I can go manually apply it. So I will now switch to the actual demo. So this is my, sorry, wrong one. There we go. So this is my repo that I've created for this demo. It's available publicly as well, so if someone wants to take a look at it after, we can find a way to share it out. I'll talk to Gilberto after with a way we can share out the code. It's nothing crazy. Maybe the only useful, I would say the most useful thing out of this is the policy. But the main TF is just a simple compute instance build. So we'll just walk through the code quickly, and then I'll actually trigger a build and show you guys what Terraform Enterprise looks like. So Terraform has the idea of using providers. So there's a Google provider, there's a Vault provider. There's basically a provider for everything that you want to work with. So the Google provider here, we have to pass it some sort of credentials. So I do a data call on my Vault resource that's in another Terraform plan. Basically triggering that and grabbing the private key data. It's in base 64, so we have to decode it. And we pass that JSON into the credentials, specifying a project name and the region I want to provision in. And then I just have a resource for a compute instance. We're just creating one node. Machine type is an N1 standard, which we'll be altering to show how Sentinel works. The zone, and then just some boot disk and network information. Again, we could edit this after too and show where Sentinel will pick up a failure. So we could switch over to Terraform Enterprise. So this is what Terraform Enterprise looks like when you log in. It has the idea of workspaces, which Terraform open source has too, but Terraform Enterprise kind of forces you a bit more into workspaces. So everything is sectioned off like that, and then you give users access to workspaces. So I created a workspace here today for this demo. You can see all my runs that I was working on today, just testing out a bunch of different Sentinel policies. So when you create a workspace, the first thing you have to do is attach it to some sort of repository. So I went through here, I did a version control, I attached it to our Arctiq GitHub, specified the repository I want to use, and specified the branch. So I'm just using master branch. The other thing is variables. So my Terraform code needs to reach out to Vault to go generate a dynamic secret. So I use my Vault, so I specified my Vault token there, so I can go authenticate against Vault. My Vault address, so where does my Vault actually live? I put them both sensitive, so that way anyone who comes in here can't actually see what they are. The Vault address probably wouldn't need to be sensitive, but it was kind of more just to show you guys that you can hide data if you don't want it to be seen. So definitely your Vault token would be one. And then this final variable here is a confirm_destroy. This variable has to exist here if we want to be able to run Terraform destroys. Without it, Terraform Enterprise won't let you run a Terraform destroy. And then the other piece I'll show you of what Terraform Enterprise has is the sense of locking. So this is kind of like a locking state. Basically what this just does is when my workspace is locked, no one can run Terraform code in this project or in this workspace. You have to go unlock it. And then you can do stuff like team access, so I can add teams to this and I can see what permissions they have and kind of just restrict it. So that's one of the big benefits that Terraform Enterprise has. It allows you to do this sort of RBAC control that just standard Terraform obviously doesn't let you do. I'll go over to show you the policies and how you kind of set them up. So if I want to set up a Sentinel policy in Terraform Enterprise, I just go over to settings, policies, create a new one, and basically what happens is we give it a name, a description, and enforcement mode. I've set the enforcement mode here to hard mandatory, which means that no one can override it. Basically, once this policy gets attached to a workspace, it 100% has to be followed. And you dump the policy code here, and I'll go back over to my repo, and I'll walk you guys through what the policy looks like. So we'll walk through this quickly. This is kind of what Sentinel code looks like. I'm not sure if anyone has worked with Sentinel before or written Sentinel policies. Nope, okay. So HashiCorp has like their own language that they use to write Sentinel policies. It's a bit confusing at first, just the way like the looping works. But after writing them for a while, you kind of start to get used to it and get the hang of them. So what I'm kind of specifying here, like I said, I only want users to be able to provision machines that are of N1.8 or less. So I'm doing that here. So basically I'm creating an array that says I'm only allowed to provision these 4 types of machines. My next rule here is a disk size limit. So I'm accessing that entity all the way up to the size. I'm saying that that disk size has to be less than 100 gigs. Actually create the machine type rule here, and what it's doing is it's looping through all the compute instances in the Terraform plan and making sure that these rules are followed for all of them. Finally, a Sentinel policy requires a main rule, and what we're just doing is making sure that these first 2 passed, and if they do, we can proceed with the Terraform apply. Again, this Sentinel policy is in the repository, so if you guys want to take a look further after, we'll figure out a way to send that out to you guys. So yeah, dump the policy code in here, and then we create a policy set. So a policy set is just a set of policies put together, and then we would apply that to a workspace. So we'll head over back to the workspace. Now we can actually do a run. So you can do a run from the UI as well, but kind of what I wanted to show you guys is that you can tie it into GitHub webhooks, and when I want to git commit and a git push, it'll automatically trigger a webhook in Terraform Enterprise. So we'll go ahead and do that now. I'll make that a bit bigger. Okay, so this is my repository, the same one that's in GitHub. I'll go ahead and change this. So what we'll do is we'll make it fail first at the Sentinel level. So I can just change this to N132. And then I can do a commit. This will fail. So I do a git push origin master. It's now pushing the changes to git. I've automatically now triggered a build in GitHub Enterprise. So if I head back over to here, I should do a refresh. And now we can see that I've created this, this will fail with my commit message, and it's now planning. So we can open this up, and this will look really familiar if you're used to Terraform, right? It's just doing a standard, sorry, I already failed already. This is very standard if you're used to Terraform, right? You're just doing a Terraform apply. It's saying Terraform will perform these following actions. Once it's done doing that, the next thing it does is it goes to a policy check. And we see it failed, which we expected because of my rule that the machine type. So it tells us right here, false, machine type allowed. So that's what it tells us where it kind of fails. So obviously we cannot do an apply. It's just saying this apply will not run. So now if we want it to actually go through, we can go back into the main.tf, put this back to an N1 standard one. We'll do another commit saying this will pass. Push it to git. And we can go back to the workspace. Now we should see a new plan. So again, there's our commit messages. It shows that my GitHub handle is triggered from GitHub, provides us with the branch, and then the commit code as well. So we gotta click this up. Again, it has to go through a plan. It'll build the next thing to do. It does a policy check. We see the policy is checked now. Everything came back true. So our 2 policies where we have the OS disk size and then the size of the VM, those both passed. The only thing left to do now is to do a confirm and apply. So right now I have this checked as manual. You can also in a workspace set that to do it automatically. So if you don't want to have that manual process and you trust that your Sentinel policies are enforcing what you want, you can just bypass that and then just do an automatic apply. Do you have a question about it? Yeah.
Can you make it so the policy checks run on like pull requests?
Sorry, if the policy
requests run on pull requests. The policy checks run on pull requests.
Oh, so I haven't seen that before. I'd have to look into it a bit further. But I think kind of the idea of the workflow would be you're doing your pull request, or maybe I would probably run it maybe on a branch before. You can also do Sentinel testing. So like right here, you can do like a Sentinel mock. And what you can do is you can download the Sentinel policy. So you can download the Terraform plan in the way Sentinel wants to read it. and you can run it locally by doing like a Sentinel test, and then you would be able to see if that code would actually work or not. But I would have to look into it further because I think I know what you're talking about, which would definitely be a valid use case. So like I said, we could switch it to manual, but I just want to show you guys that you could do a confirm and apply. So just say, I can say ship it, confirm plan, and now we're just going to see standard Terraform output of it trying to actually provision in GCP. So you can see it now created a state file for us that we can go access in our states. And then we can head over to GCP, and now we can see the node coming up in GCP. You can also see my Terraform Enterprise and Vault nodes as well. Is there any questions around that sort of workflow? Does it make sense how that workflow would work? Do you guys see that being like kind of useful in your everyday type of deployments? We found like the Sentinel policies are pretty wicked in terms of what you can control. I was actually looking at it too with GKE, and it's pretty powerful of what you can actually limit and set. That is sort of a standard for your enterprise.
Does it automatically detect the policies from that past the directory, or you manually upload it to that Workspace?
Sorry, say that again.
Does it detect the policies, the Sentinel policies from the policy folder in the
Yeah, so it's a good question. So the way I have it right now is I manually added it to Terraform Enterprise. So there's no SCM integration with that. I manually had to go write it in my local directory and then upload it. But you can do it the way you're describing too. There's a Sentinel provider for Terraform, and then you can provide policy that way. But just more for this demo, I just wanted to do it that you can write it through Enterprise. But totally, like I said, there's the Vault provider. Sorry, there's the Terraform provider that will do that as well. So apply finished, which means our node came up, which is great. And then once we want to kill it, we just go over to settings, destruction and deletion, and I can queue a destroy plan, which I'll do because I have that variable set. Now we'll do a plan. Basically the same thing if you wrote a Terraform destroy in your shell. See the same sort of output that we're used to. It's going to say this perform will now destroy this compute instance. It's going to go through checking a policy again, just in case you have any other policies in there that may void it. Shouldn't take too long. Yeah, passed. Okay, and now I'm good. So we can say delete it, and we can confirm the plan. And if I do a refresh of the console, that node should eventually go away. There we go. Yep, there you go. And now we see the node is destroying. Any questions around this? Any other questions around this sort of workflow? Zoom this out a bit. No? Cool. Oh, yeah.
Are those policies evaluated only on the hook, or?
Yeah, so a policy is only actually run against a Terraform plan. So once I do like a webhook, or if I manually went and did like queue plan and then said run it, and then did a queue plan, it'll then do a policy check again. Because what it's doing is, look right here, like it's doing the plan first and then it's doing the policy check. So yeah, it's every time the plan is done, the next step is to do the check.
So it doesn't actually touch anything pre-existing?
No. So like none of your infrastructure, you were talking about like infrastructure that Terraform would have provisioned?
Let's just say infrastructure that Terraform has already.
Right, yeah, no, so a policy, no. So yeah, if I did have like a bunch of N1 standard 32s already before I enforced the policy, it won't now go, and if I ran this again, it wouldn't say, hey, like these are there, because like it would pass. It's just in the next time that now that the policy is in place, and if you try to do an apply afterwards and those didn't exist, then it would catch it. But I mentioned before too, another way to kind of test it is you could download the Sentinel mock and then run your Sentinel policy against your Terraform plan offline, just to make sure that would work. So when you actually did implement it for Terraform Enterprise, you wouldn't be hit with any crazy surprises or anything. Yeah.
What's the compatibility of that? Like, is it compatible with any policy syntax, or is there anything that have to be run on enterprise, not on sort of the testing mock.
So I'm not sure if I understand the question. So I mean, Sentinel has like its syntax of how you would write the code, right? So like this is like how the syntax of how you'd write the Sentinel policy, and you can apply it against anything in your plan. So if your plan had multiple, if you're providing, like if you were like provisioning to multiple providers, you could write your policy code to check multiple things. And then this would be like I said, HashiCorp has like their standard syntax of how you'd write the policy.
And you see there's a mock or tool that you can test.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So it's basically just, it's literally like a Sentinel binary you would download from HashiCorp, the same way you would download Vault.
So my question is, is there any like particular, and that mock tool is 100% compatible with the enterprise edition as in,
Oh.
like there's won't be like any syntax.
No, correct. Yeah. So if I were to run a Sentinel, so it's like a Sentinel test, and then you provide the policy and like a test JSON, which you download, your output would be the exact same locally as it would be on Terraform Enterprise. Yeah.
Does Sentinel support modules like the same way Terraform does? Where you could run like a template of a policy and then apply it differently for different projects?
So if you were importing a Terraform module in your Terraform plan, yeah, I mean like the Sentinel policy would act the same way.
No, I mean like you have does Sentinel itself have modules?
Oh, does it support like a module check?
Like where you could have like a default Sentinel policy module that you can apply to all projects?
Okay, so I mean, what you could do is, so if you went like the settings, like I guess you would probably have to write like that basic policy of what you would want, and then what you could do is you could set it to all workspaces in Terraform Enterprise.
Okay.
Right. So sure, let me show you what I mean. So like I said, what you have to do is you create your policies and then you map them to policy sets, and those actually get applied to workspaces. So right here, I have scope of policies. I can do enforce on all workspaces, and then I could say, like my policy is called restrict machine type. But so you get something more generic. Say whatever you wrote, like something that you know you want to apply across all workspaces, you could just do that there. You could layer on multiple policies.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at.
Yeah, like you could write, like it doesn't have to be specific every time. You can have a basic one that says, even maybe your compute instances for anything your company writes has to have like a certain prefix above it. You could write a Sentinel policy that would apply across all the workspaces and make sure that check is done, plus anything else you add.
So say like enforcing and naming.
A naming convention, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so even if it's across like AWS, Azure, GCP, it doesn't matter. You would just create that policy, put it in a policy set, and then have it across all workspaces. And then I could layer on like this one, for example, where for this workspace in particular, they also have to be under 100 gig and they also have to be a certain size. So yeah, you could definitely sort of do like a mass general policy as well. Yeah, exactly, yeah. The region one is another perfect one. So again, like across your company, you can only provision in like US Eastern or US whatever, like something specific.
Okay, cool.
Definitely, yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, right behind the pool, yeah.
Does Terraform Enterprise give you any help with versioning either your Terraform plans or your policies?
No. So, so you can't version your Terraform code. Like that's where something like you would tie it into like GitHub or like whatever your SCM is and have it versioned that way. That's kind of how they. So here, let me show you. Oops, so
Wouldn't it be cool because this is like the orchestrator for validating your Terraform plan because you already have both inputs.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. So the way the way it looks like the way I've seen the workflow and the way I've seen it being implemented is you have it tied into an SCM that's controlling the state of your, or I shouldn't confuse it with Terraform state, but like the GitHub state or the repo state, that's being controlled by your SCM, and then basically you're just doing git commits and you're doing git pushes into Terraform Enterprise. It's not necessarily doing the version control at that level. It kind of is more on your SCM to kind of manage that. But what it does do is like you can see here, it does match up with like your commit codes and the branch. So it does tie in nicely well with GitHub and then the other ones too, like Bitbucket or GitLab. But itself out of the box doesn't have it like internally.
But if you create modules, you can version your modules.
Yeah, so modules are a bit different, right? Because that's like you have your module registry, and there you'd be able to provide a bit more. But for your actual, so modules you could, but Terraform plans, it'd be more up to your SCM. Sorry, there's two questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, it's like this. Along a similar line, is it possible to sort of to push tags into your SCM from Terraform Enterprise? Like if you apply something and was successful, does that get tied back to the SCM? Like,
Oh, so you're saying like if I had a successful run in Terraform Enterprise, does that get tagged in GitHub or something? Not that I have seen, no. So one thing I meant to show, but if my laptop is in Do Not Disturb, is you can tie it into like Slack, for example. So when I did a git push, get a Slack notification to a channel saying this workspace created a plan. It'll say, okay, it's ready to be approved, or it failed at the Sentinel policy check. And basically, whenever it's ready, it's saying it's ready to be applied. It's waiting for user feedback. So you can get that sort of stuff. And then when it's done, it would say, hey, look, this job completed. So there's that. Like you can tie it into Slack, or you could tie it into something like that. I haven't seen a tie back into GitHub or something. And you had a question over there too.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how does this look with like multi-environment and multi-account setups? So say you have the same GitHub repo
Mm-hmm.
that you're using to apply to multiple accounts or to a whole bunch of different tiers. Is that supported in this? We just have those as separate workspaces.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you would just separate it. I would separate it like through workspaces.
You can't sort of put any kind of dependency, like you can only apply this workspace if this workspace has succeeded. That kind of.
Oh, so you mean like kind of like chain it?
Yes, but like a sort of environment promotion.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it like that because I think what the kind of workflow you're talking about is something like, I don't know if you're like familiar with like Ansible Tower, where you can provision, where you can set up something like that. So I have like once one job completes, it would build the next one only if that one completed, or if it failed, you can tag them like that. I haven't seen anything like that with Terraform Enterprise, and like you can tie workspaces together. That might be something a bit more. I would even take it a step further because like Terraform Enterprise has like a whole API, right? So maybe you're not doing it directly through the UI, but you could orchestrate it some other way outside, and then just triggering the API. And then based on like the return codes, do this or do that. That's how I would kind of, I think, handle it. Any other questions around this workflow? No, cool. Okay. I have one more small demo for you guys as well, and then I'm going to stop talking. So another thing I want to show, and this is more of just like a share and get feedback on. We've been in constant conversation with a company called Coherent, and they're based out of the UK. And what they do is they've created a platform, like a service that allows you to write Terraform code more by like drag and drop, right? So as an example here, I have my Coherent demo, again, also available, but not showing anything too crazy, in a main TF. And this is just standard Terraform code that if you've used Terraform before, it kind of it's table stakes. So I'm just creating like a resource, creating a second one more just to show. It really is kind of a bogus Terraform Enterprise, but it was more just to show you guys all the stuff you can do with it. So how it kind of works is you can write your Terraform plans, and it's sort of like a visualizer. So for someone who maybe isn't super comfortable with writing Terraform code or is new to it is new, you can use something like Coherent, where it's kind of like a drag and drop and a way to visualize your Terraform code. So we see here we have a Google provider. I have my 2 compute resources. I have like a network I've created, and then like an SQL database along with a actual instance itself. And I've created a variable with a machine type. Has anyone heard of Coherent before or seen a tool like this? It's more just to share, just to see what you guys would have thought if you would find this sort of useful as well. These guys are pretty new starting out, and they're just trying to gather feedback and find out ways they can make the tool better. So I was just wondering more if you guys have seen it before, if you guys are interested in it, and just getting some sort of feedback on the tool. So I'll quickly just show like what a kind of quick workflow would sort of look like. So I already have like a Terraform plan in here. I imported it. The workspaces, it kind of has the same sort of feel as Terraform Enterprise in terms of workspace. So each workspace is like a one-to-one relationship with a GitHub repo. As you see, I have a few here, which is matched up with this guy. And what you do is basically it's sort of like a pull and commit. So same sort of thing that you would do with the command line. So as an example, I'll just show you quickly how this kind of works. It supports Azure, AWS, GCP, and VMware, vSphere. So again, we're just going to stick with GCP once this loads. And what I'll do is just to show you how it kind of works is I'll do like a variable. So you can drop in a variable. We can call the variable a name. So I'll do, as an example, location. I call it default, and it's a string. So you can add that, and we can call this default, can be US Central A. Just want to make sure I get it right. Save that. And now I can go into one of my compute instances, for example. I can take out the hard-coded zone, and then I can reference the variable. So var.location. Can save it. And now you notice like the little I, so now it's out of date with what's in GitHub. I can now do a commit. It'll now commit that code over to GitHub. I can go back here and do a refresh. So we can see that there was now just a recent commit right here, just now, from Coherent. I can open up main.tf. We'll scroll down to the bottom. So now it created a variable for us, and it also updated the location right here of my compute instances. And then if I want to run it, I can just go back over to my terminal, go back into Coherent demo. I'll show you guys what it looks like. Then I would just do a git pull so I can catch up. You'll see now I have a few more changes in just based off the changes I just made in Coherent. And then it's just a standard way you would run Terraform, and I can just do a Terraform apply. And then you would see all the code there. And then the same thing, it works the other way as well. So if I went and made a change in my main.tf here, so say for example, I change this to B, like B for example, I can exit out, I can do a git commit a-m, change location, git push origin master. Can go back over to Coherent. I can do a pull. And now if I open up this variable, it'll show US Central 1B. So I think it's a nice way to kind of provide like another alternative to writing Terraform code. Like I said, where I see this becoming more useful is someone who's maybe more ops focused and doesn't have like super in-depth experience with Terraform, or they just want to make like some custom small changes and nothing like too crazy. So I'm kind of curious more, it was more of a share and to see what you guys think, if this is something kind of useful. So the Coherent guys are just kind of looking for feedback from us, so I figured I'd share it with you guys tonight and just get some sort of feedback.
My 2 cents, I like code. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's exactly kind of feedback I kind of figured, and I've talked to someone about it too. I was like, you're gonna get 2 types of people.
This looks like Visual 2003. And we moved out from any project like this. Like basically, everything is code.
Yeah, yeah.
So now code is visual. It looks like we are going back. I don't know. I cannot speak to.
Yeah, no. It's totally valid, and that was one of the things like I've said before. I was like, some people are, and I'm the same way. I think for big Terraform projects or anything, I'm gonna want to write the code. I don't want to be dragging and dropping. I do think it's a super useful tool. Like I said, for some people for sure. But that makes like I totally get that.
You want to quickly understand what's going on, sort of what's going on with this particular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's nice because you can import the code the other way too, right? So if you did write Terraform code, it's nice that you can pull this in. So it kind of gives you like a nice visual representation of what your infrastructure sort of looks like. Sorry, you have a question? Yeah. Or comment?
Can you create one
Yeah, so it supports basically any sort of property, right? You can do a string, number, float, a boolean, or an array. Basically whatever Terraform would support.
What about like,
Option.
yeah.
Right there, object.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, sorry, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can, I haven't tried with objects or anything yet before, but they do have it supported, yeah.
Can I just go back to the variable, the prompt?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I just click on the object also because I want to see if it allows nesting object.
I don't believe so, because kind of how you would write it, so kind of how you would write it is you'd have to write a default, so I already have the key there. So one thing here, what I'll do is I'll just create another one. So just do another one. Test, default, and then object. So, oh yeah, so you can, yeah. Like I said, I haven't used default with, I haven't used object with coherent before, but it looks like, yeah, you can definitely go through that. Sorry, did that kind of answer your question or comment? Yep. Yeah.
Just one bit of feedback about it. I've used a different tool before, Cloudcraft.
So yes, so Cloudcraft that's the one that's AWS specific, right?
Yeah, it's AWS specific, and I use it mostly for diagramming. I don't really use the
Literally, it's exactly what I use it for too. I use it for
I
diagramming.
just wanted to make that comment. It seemed like there's a middle ground between creating diagrams for documentation and then turning that into like a Terraform template.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You could probably improve this so it's better for documentation as well.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the big, because that's exactly what I use. That's exactly what I use it for. Like even if it's not AWS stuff, I'll just create my own empty boxes and then just put in my own icons, and it works pretty well. Yep.
So what provider did you say support?
Pardon me?
What provider did you say?
Oh, Azure, AWS, GCP, and vSphere.
Okay, in that case, can this, because for example, a common scenario that I encountered a few days ago was I want to use TLS provider to create an SSH key, GitHub deploy key, and put it in Kubernetes secrets. Would this kind of in the future allow that, or is it still too complex for that kind of scenario?
I would have to, the biggest thing is I'd have to take it back with them and ask them. So it's kind of exactly what I want. I was kind of polling for questions exactly like that and just seeing if they would support it. So,
I guess, on my side, the entire point of Terraform is not just for cloud, like big cloud provider, but it's also like the utility provider to use with each other.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. So that's a good use case for sure. Any other questions? Yeah, a question at the back, yeah.
The only concern, the biggest concern I have whenever I get a really big tool is it going to reorder everything when I give a change? And then two is, where is that metadata for that diagram? And if I move one of those boxes, is it going to just say, rewrite the file completely?
Yeah, so you mean if I do, so now it's not letting me do it, but before I was actually able to physically move it, but I can't for some reason. From what I've seen, from using it, no, because I have been able to move the boxes before, and right now, obviously, I can't. And what happens is once you do a commit or do like a git change or even like a page reload, it reorganizes them based on what it wanted. So it kind of puts them back into place. So like, for example, when I do so if I add like something else here, right? Yeah, for some reason it's not letting me move it around. When I do a git commit, what it does, it kind of shuffles it around back to like what it kind of deems as what it wants to be.
Does it mean like when you added the variable, it added it at the bottom?
Yeah, so.
I like my variables at the bottom.
No, I agree. No, yeah, I agree, absolutely. So that's another good piece of feedback, absolutely. Because I'm the same with you. Because if I did a variable and then I did another compute instance, for example, well, it's just appending to the Terraform plan, right? So I think one good use of one good piece of feedback would definitely be that, being able to find a way to kind of do that. Because absolutely, I feel like most people, or if anything, I would have it in a separate Terraform plan. Would probably be the other, in a separate Terraform file. That'd be the other, because it supports multiple, right? Like this is just one main TF, but I could have like a vars.tf, which is what I usually would do anyway. Any other questions?
Just question for the tool.
Yep.
create variable,
Yeah.
and they show, for example, like this instance dependent, this variable.
Yeah, so it does support depends on as well. It does.
No, they show like.
Oh, so what it would kind of do is it would show it like here as like, so I have it depends on.
Only here, not on the graph.
Not on the, so.
For example, I apply
So-
these variables for 3 instances,
Mhm.
and missing like, oh, one is missing, and I have to go and check.
Yeah.
what is missing.
So what I haven't, so.
Like a code, I have to check through the code.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely another good piece of feedback is finding a way to link like the variables. I haven't seen that. Not to say that it isn't 100% supported. I just haven't been able to figure that out yet. It would be nice to have like a way that all my variables link to one of these boxes, for example, because I know.
Like automatically by focus, they show like.
Yeah.
Dependent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a valid.
Like visual
For sure.
tool.
For sure. Yeah.
Like visual.
Absolutely. Just be cautious of time too. I'll do maybe like one more question if anything, and then if anyone else has any more questions, you can just ask me afterwards, as well. Or no more questions. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys.